All right, we want to continue to examine the fallout from yesterday's decision in Colorado, where four Democrat appointed judges ruled to remove former President Donald Trump from their state's primary ballot. In a decision that appears to be headed to the U.S. Supreme Court, the judges cited the January 6th committee's biased judgment that former President Trump incited an insurrection. But keep in mind, that was something that the Senate acquitted Trump of on all charges. Well, joining me now with his reaction to all of this is Congressman Ron Estes. He serves on the House Ways and Means Committee, as well as the Budget Committee and the Committee on Education and Workforce. He represents the 4th Congressional District of Kansas. Good friend, Congressman Estes, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to see you.
Well, thank you, Jody. I appreciate you having me on today.
Well, it's always great to have you. Let's just talk, first of all, your overall reaction to the news coming out of Colorado yesterday.
Yeah, it really was surprising. I mean, there's a lot of states, several people who just want to oppose President Trump being on the ballot have brought up these claims about insurrection. And in all previous cases, it's been turned down. And you look at this, the whole totality of what happened within what Colorado did. There's 7 Democrat-appointed justices. Only 4 of them decided to vote this way. The other 3 said it's not right. And even the 4 that voted that way decided, said that they were traveling in uncharted territories. And it's really, when you look back, President Trump's not been charged with insurrection by Jack Smith on any of the court cases. In fact, nobody's being charged with insurrection, and certainly nobody's been convicted of it. So it's really a sad day in America when you have 4 judges who decide that their political preference is that President Trump, or anybody, isn't on the ballot. And it's kind of like the things you expect in Iran or one of the banana republics. It's not something you expect in American electoral politics.
Yeah, you're so right. And, you know, this is something, as you mentioned, the president has not been convicted of insurrection. In fact, has been acquitted of all of that. No one's been charged, to my knowledge, of insurrection at all in all of this. There has been due process that seems to have been totally ignored as well. And here the state Supreme Court of Colorado using a crime of an individual who's been acquitted of those crimes, and they're saying, therefore, he can't be on the ballot. This whole thing is just frightful. It's just unbelievable to me. And you of course, have brought up that President Trump was not charged of any of these kinds of things. So let me ask you, Congressman Estes, this, I think, no question, is headed to the U.S. Supreme Court. How imperative, just for political stability in our country, how imperative is it to get a definitive judicial resolution on all of this as quickly as possible?
I think it is important for the U.S. Supreme Court to weigh in on this and make sure that it's clearly understood across the country. I mean, there were a lot of destruction and damage done by folks on January 6th, and I don't condone that. They should not have been breaking windows, breaking doors, entering into the Capitol building and doing the damage that they did. But to try to come back and say that that was an insurrection that was incited by President Trump and led by President Trump, and therefore that disqualifies him for office, is beyond the pale in terms of what we should consider. And so it's important that the U.S. Supreme Court weigh in and make sure that we get back to a fair and open democratic republic, which we are, and make sure that the voters can choose who they want to select them, or vote against people that they don't want to represent them. And that's where we should put the emphasis on. And I'm looking forward to the Supreme Court doing that and helping make sure that there's clarity on this, and it brings closure to this situation.
Yeah, great point there. I want to play, I played this earlier as we began today's program. I don't know if you saw it or not. I want to go back, if we can, play clip 1 again. And I would like to get your reaction to this, Congressman. This is Senator Coons, clip 1.
I don't think it really matters if he's unfit to hold office. We should all be encouraged by any action that makes it less likely that he will return to the presidency.
I don't care if this is
Oh,
right or
wow.
wrong. We should be encouraged by anything that keeps him from being elected again. How concerned are you by the left's willingness to embrace these kind of tactics?
Yeah, I think that's a very terrible position to take. I mean, in our country, in America, we focus so much on letting the people decide and select who's going to be their representatives, and to have folks come out and say that they should actively encourage and support things that actually keep people from being on the ballot, and to give the voters a choice on who they have to represent them is chilling to think through that. And you know, the whole discussion about insurrection as well, just it pales thinking back. I saw or heard earlier today that after the 14th Amendment was put in place, which is what the Colorado courts using as their basis, there were 6 years later, there were 6 former Confederate officers there were 6 years later, there were 51 Confederate officers that were sworn in to Congress. So obviously, even at that point in time, it was an indication that we were going to move forward in the country and allow the voters to select who they want to represent them. And we shouldn't have individuals going out and making claims that we should drum up anything they can in order to stop people from being on the ballot.
We've got about 60 seconds or so left, Congressman. What kind of reaction, what are you hearing from your colleagues about all this?
Yeah, when I first heard the ruling last night, it was just kind of shock and surprise. So many people that I was talking to at that point in time, that the court would rule that way, particularly in light of all the previous court rulings around the country in different states, were that this was not an appropriate direction to take, and or even cases were dropped and pulled back. So this is really an outlier. Whatever this decision, it sounds like it's just a partisan decision made by these 4 people in Colorado.
Well, it is something we're definitely going to be following. Congressman Ron Estes of Kansas. We actually shared in a Bible study together while I was in Congress. In fact, it was held in my office much of the time. Always great to see you, my friend. Hope you and your family have a fantastic Christmas.
Well, thank you, Jody, and I wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.